Welcome back on Saturday, the day before Easter, to another edition of David Palmer's Drink of the Day. However, today we're going to do two drinks. We're going to do two drinks. One, because it's Saturday, and we can have a couple of drinks on a Saturday, and we don't have to work, even if it's a remote work situation. We got a few extra hours today to do that, and I wanted to do that. Also, I'm depressed because I'm not at the track. Typically, I would be at the track today, enjoying a horse race and a cold bourbon and watching something and maybe winning something. But let's go ahead and start off with our first drink today. This is called a Scofflaw. And remember, we had talked about the fact that a lot of bartenders left the United States for Great Britain and Europe during the Prohibition time of the 20s. This drink was invented in Great Britain. It's called the Scofflaw. It's a little bit of an interesting drink. Let's start it off with a little bit of ice in our small shaker at this point, because I'm only going to make one of these. Let's see, make that a little easier. Our second drink's going to be really fun too, a little bit more tropical side of things. So now we're going to go with 2 ounces of our nice bourbon, Old Forester, from the Brown-Forman Company in Louisville, Kentucky, the oldest bottled bourbon in the world. There you go with that. Before that, they were just drinking it out of the barrel, I guess. Not quite sure, but 2 ounces of our bourbon. Then we're going to go with 1 ounce. We don't see this as often. Dry vermouth. Remember, we talked about vermouth. The dry vermouth is typically French, and the sweet vermouth is typically Italian on that. There we go, dry vermouth. And then we're going to go with a 1/4 ounce of fresh lemon juice. It doesn't get any fresher than a wedge, so I'm just going to squeeze. That'll be about as close to a 1/4 as I could get. I'm not going to measure, and I'm not going to worry too much about it. Put that back down. 1/2 ounce of grenadine or cherry syrup. Drop it right in. And then 2 dashes of our bitters. These are, again, as I had said, Copper and Kings out of Louisville, Kentucky. Great company. Give this a nice shake. We're going to serve this in a cordial glass. I'm using a little bit different shaker. You haven't seen one of these, but this is, if you're just making single drinks, this one works real nice. This is a really pretty bright colored drink. A really good flavor to it. It gets garnished because of the lemon juice. Lemon, big fat lemon twist. That, if we can get it to stay. There we go. So that's our first drink today. Exciting, fun drink. Our second drink I'm going to do for you. And we'll go ahead and, yes. Now our second drink, I'm going to use the big shaker. This will be a fun one for you too. We talked earlier and we made a drink called the Belvedere, and I told you a little bit about Erskine Gwynn, the author. What I didn't tell you is why it was named the Belvedere. Erskine Gwynn was actually an editor for a magazine in Paris called the Belvedere magazine. What had happened was, as I had said, many people had fled the United States during Prohibition. Erskine Gwynn was a magazine that was the counterpart of what our magazine in the United States, which is the New Yorker magazine here. So it's a very popular magazine. And so the Belvedere was named after Erskine Gwynn. But we're going to do a banana Belvedere, which came out really in the 40s and 50s in the United States as a takeoff on the original Belvedere. I believe it was in Bon Appetit magazine at first. It probably has been featured in Esquire and a few of those other magazines, but it's a fun one too. Let's go ahead and start this drink. Let's see, and this one we're making 2 because I know I would get in trouble if I didn't have one for somebody else in this household today. So we're going to do 2 ounces. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's put some ice in here first, because we will be shaking this significantly. So 2 ounces of our Old Forester bourbon. But you know I always go a little bigger, right? Let's go to 3 ounces. Because it calls for a 1 ounce pour. So we're doing a 1.5 each of our bourbon on that. Now we need sweet vermouth and we're doubling it up. So we're going to go with solid. Now this I will back off of. It's just 2 ounces of sweet vermouth. Same brand name. That's not a bad company, but there are better vermouths out there on the market that you can find. Now, the recipe calls for a 1/2 ounce of Campari. I'm going to use Aperol, which is kind of Campari's cousin. They're not exactly the same, but I've only got so much room in the liquor cabinet these days for a bunch of different ingredients. So 1/2 ounce, let's do a full ounce of that. And then my favorite part of this drink is a 1/2 ounce, but we're making 2, so a full ounce creme de banana. It's just a banana liqueur. Well, banana, some people say liqueur, some people say it's a schnapps. Nobody's gonna drink this straight. It's only used for mixing usually. So now we've got all that in there. Let's take our lid on that. Get it good and shaken up. Now you can serve this up like we did our last drink, but a lot of times when I go to the fruitier drinks like this, I like to go ahead and strain it over crushed ice. Almost like we did with the smashes a few days ago. Hopefully we've got enough here for a couple. And I'm going to I have 2 bananas in there, and I'm also going to put an orange twist on the top. The more fruit to the party, the better. All right. Go ahead and get a close-up on that. Now we've got all the drinks. Our Belvedere, our Banana Belvedere, and our Scofflaw. Both amazing drinks. Now you got to remember the Belvedere originally was, it was just before the Negroni. And it was made with bourbon or whiskey. The Negroni then came out, which kind of got a lot more popular after that. I hope that you folks spend some time this weekend with some nice, exciting drinks. Sit out on your patio, sit with your family. Make it a good time to reconnect with people in one way or another. And no matter what, remember that we'll get through this. This will be a test for us all, but do something that makes your life exciting and have a bourbon.